Welcome to LITSURE Academy. We are going to discuss the UGC NET English exam questions of the 2020 exam. The recently held UGC NET English exam was held in 2 shifts. In this video, we are going to talk about the questions from the criticism and theory part in the Shift 2 English exam. Shift 2 UGC NET English exam. So there were close to 20 questions from the theory part. As I already said, we are only looking at the theory questions of the whole question paper, and we had almost 20 questions, which shows the dominance of theory section in the question paper. We have been witnessing this dominance for the last 3-4 exams. So it is better that you students should focus more on the theory section. The first question we are looking at is related with deconstruction. The question is, a deconstructive reading of a text shows that there are 5 options. Option A, a text is to be read always in a context. Option B, there is nothing except the text. Option C, a text may betray itself. Option D, a text may possess an ascertainable meaning. Option E, there is an endless postponement of meaning. Choose the correct answer from the options given below. So this is about deconstruction, and you have to find out which of these statements are true to the deconstructive principle. The answer to this question is option 3. That is B, C and E. B, C and E are the correct statements. The statement B, there is nothing except the text. This is a famous statement of Derrida, the post-structuralist philosopher who is known as the propounder of deconstructionism. Option C, a text may betray itself. And option E, there is an endless postponement of meaning. All these things are true to deconstructive principles, deconstructive criticism. So this is the actual answer of the question. The remaining statements are not true to the deconstructive criticism. Now let us look at the next question. Which of the following edited the defining work of third wave feminism, This Bridge Called My Back, writings by radical women of color? There are 4 options: Audre Lorde, Barbara Smith, Gloria Anzaldúa, and Cherry Moraga. Then the question says you have to choose the correct answer from the options given below. So again, there are 4 options. This is where we have to choose the correct answer. Option 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 options are there. So there are 2 persons who edited this particular work, This Bridge Called My Back. So there are 2 editors, and we have to pick the 2 out of the 4 options given. Here the answer is option number 2, that is C and D. Option C, Gloria Anzaldúa, and option D, Cherry Moraga. So who are these people? These 2 people are American feminist writers. They belong to third wave feminism. They have written a very popular work of third wave feminism. The title is given there in the question itself, this bridge called my back. So these are very popular American feminists, Gloria Anzaldúa and Cherry Moraga. Then the other two options, Audre Lorde and Barbara Smith, they also belong to America. They are black American writers and black American feminists. Audre Lorde is popular for writing the essay collection Sister Outsider. This is a famous work by Audre Lorde, Sister Outsider. And she has also written a very famous poem. The poem is titled as The Black Unicorn. The Black Unicorn. Barbara Smith also is a major figure in the black feminism movement of America, and she is famous for writing the work Towards a Black Feminist Criticism. Towards a Black Feminist Criticism is written by Barbara Smith. So all those people belong to feminist writers. They are all feminist writers. They are all feminist activists. And the answer, the two correct options are Gloria Anzaldúa, Cherry Moraga. These two people wrote the work, This Bridge Called My Back. Next question, that is, who among the following critics is said to have developed the notion of interpretive communities? Who developed the notion of interpretive community? The options are Terry Eagleton, Jane Tompkins, Roland Barthes, and Stanley Fish. The answer is option number 4, Stanley Fish. Stanley Fish developed the notion of interpretive communities. And this notion of interpretive communities, by this notion, Stanley Fish refers to a collectivity of people who share interpretive strategies for reading a particular text. And this particular concept stems from reader response theory. Stanley Fish is a very popular theorist of reader response criticism. And I hope you students are familiar with the other options. Terry Eagleton is a Marxist critic. Roland Barthes is a structuralist critic. He also belongs to post-structuralism. Then Jane Tompkins, this might be a name that you are not familiar with. Jane Tompkins is an American feminist critic and a reader response critic. The next question, this is a question that asks you to match two lists. List 1 is given there. It contains the names of writers or authors. The second list contains the names of their works, and you have to match them. The authors given are Ferdinand de Saussure, Edward Sapir, Jacques Derrida, Roman Jakobson, and the works given are Two Aspects of Language and Two Types of Aphasic Disturbances, Of Grammatology, A Course in General Linguistics, and Language. The correct option here is option 3. Option 3 is the correct option, which means Ferdinand de Saussure is the writer of Course in General Linguistics, and Edward Sapir wrote Language. Jacques Derrida, as we all know, wrote Of Grammatology. Roman Jakobson wrote Two Aspects of Language and Two Types of Aphasic Disturbances. So this is the correct option, correct answer, and there is no need to talk further about the authors or the works. I think you all are familiar with those authors. The next question is, which of the following statements by Roman Jakobson is true about metaphor and metonymy? Roman Jakobson is a famous writer of structuralist theory. He's a famous structuralist theorist. He belongs to the Prague School of Linguistics Circle. Is also a theorist of the formalist criticism. Anyway, the question is about a particular statement of Jakobson, and you have to find out which of the following statements is true about metaphor and metonymy. Option 1, metaphor is alien to the continuity disorder, whereas metonymy is alien to similarity disorder. Option 2, metaphor is alien to the similarity disorder and metonymy to the continuity disorder. Option 3, metaphor is alien to both similarity disorder and continuity disorder, and metonymy is common to both. Option 4, metaphor is common to both similarity disorder and continuity disorder, but metonymy is alien to both. So which is the right option? The right option here is option 2. Metaphor is alien to the similarity disorder and metonymy to the continuity disorder. Similarity disorder means if a person has similarity disorder, then he will find difficulty in remembering the synonyms, remembering metaphors, remembering collections of words that mean the same thing. That is similarity disorder. Continuity disorder means if a person has it, then he will find it difficult to remember connective words. It will be difficult for him to connect one word with another. This is similarity disorder and continuity disorder, and these are proposed by Jakobson in his famous essay, Two Aspects of Language. In the essay, he talks about a particular concept called aphasia. Aphasia means speech defect, some kind of a problem, a difficulty in speech. And he classifies aphasia into two categories: metaphoric aphasia, which is also known as similarity disorder, and metonymic aphasia, which is also known as continuity disorder. The next question is again about two lists. It is matching two lists. In the first list, you have the names of some concepts. In the second list, you have the names of the theorists who developed the earlier mentioned concepts. You have to match them correctly. The concepts given are competence and performance, signifier and signified, metaphor and metonymy, content and expression. Theorists Noam Chomsky, Roman Jakobson, Louis Jenslev, and Ferdinand de Saussure. The correct answer here is option 4. Option 4 is the correct answer, which means competence and performance, those concepts are developed by Noam Chomsky. Signifier and signified are developed by Ferdinand de Saussure. Metaphor and metonymy is developed by Roman Jakobson, while the concepts content and expression are developed by Louis Jenslev. So this is the correct answer. You all will be familiar with these concepts. Competence and performance are put forward by Noam Chomsky, the American linguist. Competence means a native speaker's knowledge of the rules and regulations of a language, while performance denotes a particular utterance of speech by a native speaker. Signifier and signified are the concepts developed by Ferdinand de Saussure. These concepts are related with structuralism. You can divide a particular word into a signifier and a signified. Signifier or signified is not signified, but a signifier, which is also called the a signifier and a signified are together called a particular sign. In other words, a sign can be classified into a signifier and a signified. Signifier denotes the letters of a particular word, while signified denotes the meaning, an image or an idea that is represented by the letters. They are put forward by Ferdinand de Saussure. The third concepts, metaphor and metonymy, they are developed by Roman Jakobson. We already discussed about metaphor and metonymy. The fourth pair of concepts, content and expression. You may not be too familiar with those concepts. They are developed by Louis Gemslave. Louis Gemslave is actually a Danish linguist. He developed the Copenhagen Linguistic Circle. You might be heard of Prague Linguistic Circle, but this is Copenhagen Linguistic Circle. Copenhagen is situated in Denmark. It is this linguistic circle that developed glossmatics, a particular branch of linguistics. Glossmatics can be a possible question in a NET exam. Glossmatics was developed by Copenhagen Linguistic Circle, and this guy Louis Gemslave was a member of this particular linguistic circle that developed glossmatics. Anyway, content and expression are the words by which he denotes the same ideas as that of signifier and signified. In other words, Louis Gemslave renames signifier and signified as content and expression. The same idea but two different names. He gives Ferdinand de Saussure called it signifier and signified, but Gemslave renamed it content and expression. Coming to the next question, again you have a question in which you have to match the correct answers. The first list contains the name of certain terms. The second list is full of the theorists who developed those concepts or terms. The first list, heteroglossia, heterotopia, grand narrative and interpellation. The second list contains Michel Foucault, Louis Althusser, Mikhail Bakhtin and Jean-Francois Lyotard. These are all very familiar names for the students of English literature and theory. The correct answer, you have to choose the correct answer from the options. There are 4 options, but the right answer here is option 3. The right answer is option 3, which means heteroglossia is developed by Mikhail Bakhtin. Heterotopia is a concept of Michel Foucault. Grand narrative is a concept of Jean-Francois Lyotard, while interpellation is developed by Louis Althusser. Heteroglossia is a concept by Mikhail Bakhtin, and it is simply about the different viewpoints, different narrative techniques, different language varieties used in a novel. In a novel, there will be a conglomeration of a variety of language varieties, narrative viewpoints and techniques. This is what Mikhail Bakhtin refers to in the concept heteroglossia. Heterotopia by Foucault refers to parallel spaces that mirror yet upset what is outside. They are spaces that are disturbing, incompatible, contradictory, or transforming, existing in the real world. In other words, heterotopia refers to worlds within worlds that mirror yet upset what is in the external world. Foucault points out some examples for heterotopia: museums, prisons, cemeteries, brothels, and bars are examples for heterotopia. They are parallel spaces that make a real utopian space possible. Grand narrative is a concept by Jean-Francois Lyotard. Grand narratives are narratives that claim absolute truth or authenticity towards everything in the world. It claims to have absolute authenticity of information about anything and everything that exists in the world. Grand narratives try to interpret everything, every experiences, every phenomena in using one logic, irrespective of the differences or other peculiarities of the information. The fourth concept, interpellation, is developed by Louis Althusser, who is a Marxist critic. Interpellation is a phenomenon that refers to how subjects are constituted by state institutions and ideologies. So these are the four concepts mentioned there. The next question is about Plato. The question is, the two broad divisions of reality in Plato's theory of reality are. The four options are: option 1, visible and assumable; option 2, intelligible and opinable; option 3, visible and intelligible; option 4, intelligible and shadows. The right answer here is option 3, visible and intelligible. These are the two broad divisions of reality in Plato's theory. For Plato, we live in a world of visible and intelligible things. By visible things, he means things we see or we hear or we smell, things we experience are called visible things. They can be known using our senses. On the other hand, intelligible things are concepts, abstractions, or mathematics. They are things we develop using our reason. Intelligible world is a world of reality, and it contains the unchanging forms of things. This is his theory of ideas, where everything exists in the ideal form, in the intelligible world. That is all about Plato's theory of reality and its two broad divisions of reality. The next question: arrange the following critical works in the chronological order of publication. So this is a question related with chronology. We often see a lot of questions related with chronology these days in net exams. So the critical works provided there are Preface to Lyrical Ballads, A Defense of Rhyme, Life of Cowley, and Frontiers of Criticism. Before talking about the answer, I'll just mention the writers of these works. Preface to Lyrical Ballads is by Wordsworth. A Defense of Rhyme is written by Samuel Daniel. Life of Collie is by Johnson, Samuel Johnson, while Frontiers of Criticism is written by T.S. Eliot. These are the writers of these works. Now, the correct answer is option 3. Option 3 is the right answer. That is, the first work to come out of these 4 works is A Defense of Rhyme. And as I said, it is written by Samuel Daniel, and the year of publication of it is 1503. 1503. The next one is option C, Life of Cowley, written by Samuel Johnson, and it came out in 1779. After that came out option A, that is Preface to Lyrical Ballads by William Wordsworth. The preface came out in the second edition of Lyrical Ballads, which is the edition 1800, the year 1800. And finally, the fourth one, or the latest one out of the 4, The Frontiers of Criticism by T.S. Eliot, came out in 1956. Next question. Again, you have a question where you have to match different things. There are 2 lists there. First list contains names of different texts, and the second list contains the names of their authors. The texts given are After Amnesia, The Indianization of English, Masks of Conquest, Colonial Transactions. The names of authors given are Gauri Vishwanathan, Harish Trivedi, G.N. Devi, and B.B. Kachru. The answer of this particular question is option 3, which means After Amnesia is written by G.N. Devi. The Indianization of English is written by B.B. Kachru. Masks of Conquest is written by Gauri Vishwanathan, while Colonial Transactions is written by Harish Trivedi. This is the answer of this particular question. We are moving on to the next one. Which 2 of the following periodicals are devoted to feminist theoretical discussion? So you have a list of periodicals. There are 4 periodicals, and you have to find out which of them are related with feminist theory. The periodicals are Spectrum, Science, Chrysalis, and Transition. Here the correct option is option 1. 2 periodicals related with feminist theoretical discussion are option B and C, that is Science and Chrysalis. 2 periodicals related with feminist theory, and for your information, both of them are American feminist journals. Science, the journal, was published by University of Chicago Press, while Chrysalis was an American journal which was published from Los Angeles in America. So they are American journals. Coming to the next one. Who among the following refutes Plato's charge that poets are liars by arguing that the poet nothing affirms and therefore never lieth? The options given are John Dryden, Philip Sidney, George Puttenham, and Richard Hooker. The answer is option 2, Philip Sidney. Philip Sidney, in his famous critical treatise, A Defense of Poetry, refutes Plato's charge that poets are liars, and he says, poet nothing affirms and therefore never lied. And we are all familiar with the other options. John Dryden, who is the father of English criticism, and Richard Hooker, who is a famous prose writer who wrote Of the Laws of Ecclesiastical Piety, and George Puttenham as well. The next question: which one of the following captures accurately the view of Frankfurt School of Critical Theory? Which one of the following captures accurately the view of Frankfurt School of Critical Theory? Option number 1, the culture industries still in their mass audiences. You have to read it as the culture industries instill in their mass audiences a capacity to question and transform. Option 2, the culture industries engender passivity and conformity among their mass audiences. Option 3, power and culture are two distinct modes of social articulation separate from each other. The final option is the analysis of culture should be divorced from politics and power relations. The answer of this question is option 2. Option 2. The culture industries engender passivity and conformity among their mass audiences. This was the view of Frankfurt School of Critical Theory. Frankfurt School of Critical Theory, it is a school associated with cultural studies, cultural theory. Major figures of this school are Max Horkheimer, Theodor Adorno, and Erich Fromm, very famous cultural theorists. They developed the notion of culture industry. Next one, which two of the following features shall apply to Roland Barthes' notion of a writerly text? The options are: option 1, in case of writerly text, the reader accepts the meaning without too much reading effort. Option B, a writerly text tends to focus attention on what is written. Option C, a writerly text makes the reader a producer. Option D, a writerly text tends to be self-conscious. And there are 4 options given there. The correct option here is option 4. Option 4 is the correct answer, which means option C and D are the right answers. Option C, a writerly text makes the reader a producer, and option D, a writerly text tends to be self-conscious. So this concept of a writerly text is developed by Roland Barthes in his famous work S bar Z. It is a famous work of Barthes. In it, he talks about, or he classifies text into 2 types: readerly text and writerly text. Readerly texts are texts which follow a very conventional, traditional, linear path of storytelling, which means it is very easy for readers to follow the story and to understand the meaning conveyed by the text. when it comes to writerly text, those texts require an extra effort, special effort from the part of readers to understand the text, because those texts do not follow conventional themes or narrative ways. Instead, they are highly unconventional. Which two of the following are Samuel Johnson's statements about metaphysical poets? So this question is about Samuel Johnson's essay Metaphysical Poets. It is a famous essay written by Metaphysical Poets is a very famous essay by T.S. Eliot, but this question is about Samuel Johnson's statements about metaphysical poets. Samuel Johnson had said some very popular statements, or he articulated or expressed some relevant ideas about metaphysical poetry and metaphysical poets. And we also know that it is Samuel Johnson who, for the first time, called metaphysical poets as metaphysical poets, or it is Samuel Johnson who gave the name Metaphysical School of Poetry to that school. So the question is, which of the following are his statements about metaphysical poets? The four options given are: option A, they were singular in their thoughts; option B, they were careful in their diction; option C, they effected combination of dissimilar images; option D, they avoided occult resemblances. Here the answer is option 4, that is A and C. The statements A and C are true. They were singular in their thoughts and they effected combination of dissimilar images. These are Samuel Johnson's statements about metaphysical poets. Moving on to the next one. Which of the following groups of words correctly state the stages of communication as envisioned by Stuart Hall in his essay Encoding and Decoding? The four options are: option 1, production, transference, circulation, contact, reproduction; option 2 says production, circulation, realization, consumption, and reproduction; option 3, production, circulation, distribution, consumption, and reproduction; option 4, the final one, production, dissemination, transference, consumption, and reproduction. So this is about Stuart Hall, a famous cultural theorist. In his essay Encoding and Decoding, he talks about communication. He delineates different stages of communication, especially mass communication. What are the stages? That is the actual question. The correct answer here is option 3. That is, the stages are production, circulation, distribution, consumption, and reproduction. The first stage, production, is about the processes involved in the production of a message. Once you produced the content of a message, then you have to circulate using the available methods and options. You circulate the message, then using the method of circulation, you distribute the message among the speakers or audience or masses. Once the distribution is over, or once the distribution is done, the masses, the audience, consume the message that is given to them, which again leads to the reproduction of the message, or the production of feedback from the audience, from those people who received the message. They received the message and produce their feedbacks, which again leads to the reproduction of message. The next question, here again, I think this is the fourth or fifth matching question. You have a lot of matching questions in shift 2 of UGC NET exam 2020 December. Not December, you had only one exam in the year of 2020. The English exam had 2 shifts. We are talking about the second shift here, and this question contains 2 lists. The first list contains the name of a few critics. The second list contains the name of few essays written by those critics. The critics mentioned are L.C. Knights, Lionel Trilling, Matthew Arnold, and A.C. Bradley. The essays mentioned are The Study of Poetry, Restoration Comedy, The Reality and the Myth, Poetry for Poetry's Sake, and The Sense of the Past. And you have to choose the correct answer from the options given there. So the answer of this particular question is option 3, which means L.C. Knights, the critic L.C. Knights wrote the essay Restoration Comedy, The Reality and the Myth. Lionel Trilling is the author of The Sense of the Past. Matthew Arnold, the famous Victorian critic, wrote The Study of Poetry, while A.C. Bradley is the author of the work, the essay Poetry for Poetry's Sake. I hope you are familiar with the critics mentioned there. Lionel Trilling is an American literary critic, belonged to the modern age. The first half of 20th century was his major writing period, and A.C. Bradley is an English critic of Victorian age. He is also famous for writing a famous work of criticism, Shakespearean Tragedy. Shakespearean Tragedy is a famous work of A.C. Bradley, and I hope you are familiar with the other 2. Coming to the next one, which 2 of the following poets defended poetry against Plato's denigration of poetry? So there are 4 poets, names of 4 poets given there: John Dryden, P.B. Shelley, T.S. Eliot, and Philip Sidney. All are very familiar names for English students. You have to find out the 2 poets who defended poetry against Plato's denigration of poetry. Now, if you remember, you can instantly identify one name if you remember the questions we discussed here. In this question paper itself, there was a question related with Philip Sidney's work, A Defense of Poetry. In that question, it was about finding the critic who defended poetry against Plato's charge that poetry is a lie. So in that question, if you remember, the answer was Philip Sidney. So you can instantly point out the name of Philip Sidney here as the one answer. So who is the second guy? The answer to this question is option 1, that is B and D. P.B. Shelley and Philip Sidney. These are the 2 people who defended poetry against Plato's charges. And there is another interesting thing that you have to remember. Both of these people used the same title in their books that were written to defend poetry. The title was A Defense of Poetry. A Defense of Poetry. Shelley has written a book with the name A Defense of Poetry, and years before, Philip Sidney also wrote a book with the same name, A Defense of Poetry, and both had the intention of defending poetry against Plato's charges. That was not the only aim, there were other intentions there, but defending poetry against Plato's charges was one of the important concerns for both the writers. Coming to the next one, this is about a particular term. Who among the following has coined the term genderlect? Who among the following has coined the term genderlect? There are four names given there: Lydia Callis, Kate Burridge, Deborah Tannen, and Mary Haas. The answer to this question is Deborah Tannen. Genderlect theory proposes that there are separate languages based on gender. It is about the difference in the usage of language of men and women. The name itself suggests that, isn't it? Genderlect. It is about the difference in which men and women use language. The gender produces a difference in the usage of language. So Deborah Tannen is associated with the theory of genderlect, and she is a famous linguist. So are the other three names mentioned here: Lydia Callis, Kate Burridge, and Mary Haas. All are popular linguists. So this is all about the questions of theory, the questions asked in the 2020 UGC NET English exam Shift 2 question paper. We discussed all the questions from the theory part, and we hope it is very useful for you in your preparations of the coming NET exams. So this is LITSURE Academy, and we would like to remind you that we are providing online classes for UGC NET English paper, and we are organizing separate classes for the first paper, general paper. So please contact us if you are interested. This is LITSURE Academy signing off. Thank you.